Hello and welcome to the answers for Stu's music quiz, more 2010s. Let's go through these, see how many you've got, and hopefully you've improved on last week. Well, let's see. First of all, first of your question, the biggest selling song of the decade was The Shape of You by Ed Sheeran. Happy was the apparently the most downloaded, or most streamed, most streamed. But Shape of You was the biggest selling song of the decade. Okay, if you wish to experiment with a bit of Ed Sheeran, after all, you know, he could do with a few people listening to his albums, make him a little bit of money. I know he's not doing so well at the moment. It was on the album Divide. Okay, now Divide fits in with the second question here. What was the biggest selling album of the decade whose title was not a number or a symbol? Because the biggest selling album of the decade, this is in the UK, although this was the biggest selling album all over the world, was 21 by Adele. The second was 25 by Adele. The third was, I think, Divide by Ed Sheeran. And the fourth was Multiply by Ed Sheeran, I think. So what was the first one that was not a number or symbol, coming in fifth place? Well done if you got this one. It was Michael Bublé's Christmas album. And I have to say, there's the four albums themselves. I have to say, if you wish to try Michael Bublé's Christmas album, I'm sure you will enjoy it very much at Christmas. I can't see it getting many votes in the favourite album of the 2010s, but there you are. Emeli Sandé, huge in the early part of the 2010s. I don't know anything about that, take that album. And Sam Smith, I think that was his debut, if I remember correctly. So there we are. The third trivia question. Elvis Costello's album Wise Up Ghost was made with The Roots. Kind of slightly edgy group, I suppose, in the 90s. Clearly much more mainstream now. I gather they now provide backing on American talk shows. But there we are. Of course it wasn't Cypress Hill. Can you imagine that? Anyway. There it is, Wise Up Ghost and Other Songs. Which band reformed in 2011? The first single in 20 years, All for One in 2016. That terrible, terrible song, such a disappointment. It was the Stone Roses. And they very quietly disbanded not long after that, I gather, with taste. Just to prove that some things should just be left alone. And trivia. Well, the clue, I suppose, that her first tour was in 1979. This was, of course, the wonderful Kate Bush. Do you remember the panic for tickets when she announced that tour from people? Of course, virtually no one had ever seen her live before. But there we are. Name that album, our little dingbats here. Okay, let's try this. Number 6. Well, the key isn't Muhammad Ali or Boxer or anything, or even the King. He was the greatest. The Greatest Show man. Again, a massive one of the 2010s. There we are. But hopefully we all got that. Born 2 pence and Die. The poor little the hearse at the end there. Lana Del Rey's best album by a mile, in my opinion. Born to Die. Now, third one, 8 here. Question 8 here might have been a bit more challenging. Well, what's going on in that first picture on the left-hand side there? Complete chaos. And then some calm. This is James Bay's The Chaos and the Calm. Okay, The Chaos and the Calm. And down the bottom, yes, it's Henry VIII, but he, of course, was a king of, well, quite a lot of limbs. Yes, Radiohead's album, The King of Limbs. Okay, hope you did all right and got at least one of those. Okay, on to number 10. The connections between Griderman, Tomorrow's Modern Boxes, Blunderbuss, and Everyday Robots was. It is lead singers of bands going solo. And in, well, most of those cases, I'm not sure about Jack White, the bands are still going. They're just providing their own solo album. But of course, Grinderman was Nick Cave's project there. Okay, you might be a bit harsh on me saying, well, it isn't him going solo because it's a band, but it's him in a side project, shall we say, breaking away from there. Tomorrow's Modern Boxes, of course, was Tom York from Radiohead. Blunderbuss is Jack White from the White Stripes. And Everyday Robots is Damon Albarn, who of course had reformed Blur at the time as well. The hip hop special and the lyrics. Okay, so what have we got first of all? I can't tell you what it really is. I can only tell you what it feels like. And right now, there's a steel knife in my windpipe. That, of course, is Eminem. Who else is going to talk about a steel knife in their windpipe? Girl, you got me down. You got me stressed out because ever since I left the city, you started wearing less and going out. More glasses of champagne out on the dance floor is Drake's Hotline Bling. And there's the album in the corner there. Hotline Bling. Well, I gave my opinion on Drake last week. I won't repeat it. Awesome. The Christian in Christian Dior. Damn, they don't make them like this anymore. I ask because I'm not sure. Do anybody make real anymore? Come on, you all got that, I hope. Of course it's Kanye, isn't it? And this is from Yeezus, one of his many ones, I think, out this decade. Man, I'm like a young gun, fully black Barack. I cried teardrops over the massive attack. I only make hits like I work with a racket and bat. Look at my jacket and hat. Yes, that is Tiny Temper. It makes him seem worse than it is, taking it out of context there, doesn't it? But never mind. Which means, of course, when there's Tiny Temper's album up in the corner there, Disc Ovary. Now I real talk, look at what God did on the main stage, running around topless, iPhone flips. Then I tell him that we got this. This is God's plan. They can never stop this. I have no idea who Flips is, but this is Stormzy. Of course, it might confuse you. Drake, of course, famously had a song called God's Plan, but he's just repeated God's plan over and over again, I think. So Stormzy here, and there's one, probably his biggest run of the decade, Gang Signs and Prayer up in the corner. Okay. So moving on, our comeback albums. The Magic Whip was, of course, Blur's comeback album in 2015. MBV, the clue was in the name, was the first album for, God, it's a long time, was it? 15 plus years from My Bloody Valentine. And Bloodsports was the welcome return by Suede, who then moved into the absolutely superb Night Thoughts after that. There's the three albums for you. Magic Whip on the left, MBV in the middle, Bloodsports on the right. And then the picture round. Okay, so number 19 was Laura Marling, one of the real stars of the 2010s, in my opinion. Quality album after quality album. My favourite of hers is I Speak Because I Can. 20, don't you recognise him? Well, in the 2010s, he took over as lead singer of Queen. That is Adam Lambert. So you could argue that he performed in front of probably more people than almost anyone else up there. 21 is the man Drake. 22, Disney fans out there, that was the Jonas Brothers. 23 is the lovely Dua Lipa. 24, that is The Weeknd, or Weeknd, if you say it the way it is. And 25, the man described by Liam Gallagher as a Chewbacca in a hoodie, was it? Anyway, Lewis Capaldi, who showed himself to have a huge sense of humour and a huge song at the same time. So there we go. I hope by this stage you're doing all right. Somewhere over half marks, hopefully. Well, we'll see. Let's see if you did better on the second half. Album covers. Wow, this is a favourite for a lot of people. This Carry On Loud, Sufjan Stevens. Sufjan, it was, for many people, his greatest album of the lot. This is the lovely Julia Holter, Have You in My Wilderness, one of her the albums, I suppose, that most people would consider her best. I prefer some others, actually. Loud City song from the 2010s is my favourite of hers. 28, this is back to Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Ghosteen, his last release of the decade there. Very picturesque cover. Of course, 29, Hang Your Head in Shame if you didn't get this right. That is the wonderful Black Star by David Bowie. And of course, the greatest album of the decade. And 30, well, did we know this one? This was Aphex Twin making a comeback with Cyro. Very interesting album cover, which seemed to go through the costs in making and producing the album. Okay, so there's our album covers. Now, what about Name That Tune? The beautiful performances from me on the piano, the electric piano there. Well, number 31 was, if you could believe it, Happy by Pharrell Williams. Number 32 was Havana, Una Na by Camila Cabello. 33 was Forget You by CeeLo Green, also known by another title. 34 was Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake. And 35 was Firework by Katy Perry. All 5 of those, I believe, got to number 1. 35 I may be wrong with, but huge selling songs from that period of time. So either my playing is to blame or your knowledge. Oh well. Okay, connections. I tried to help you, didn't I, with this, in emphasising the titles as we went along. I'm not going to go through Fiona Apple's in full again. Psycho drama. Birds of Tokyo. Paul Simon's Stranger to Stranger on a Train. And Fiona Apple's blah, 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 but with ropes in it. Hitchcock films. Come on. Psycho, The Birds, Stranger on a Train, Rope. Anyway, I thought that was a good one. And another good way to get psychodrama and Stranger to Stranger in your consciousness. And the Fiona Apple album that I won't try and read out all again. Okay, name that album. Recent 2010, 7th album, first to sell 1 million digital downloads. Might have been given away with being called Relapse 2 originally, and certainly that massive hit single with Rihanna. This was Recovery by Eminem. There it is in the corner. Okay. 38. First new studio album for 6 years, 7 songs only, but set against the background of falling snow. That might have given it away, the snow mention. His first single being the story of a group of people who discover the Yeti, then cover up its existence. Who else? It's 50 Words for Snow from Kate Bush. On to the what years? The year in which Lucy Jones was in the Eurovision Song Contest, the One Love Manchester concert. Those groups reformed, Chris Cornell killed himself. Those songs, those albums for you there was 2017. Not long ago at all. Hopefully one of those sparked it up for you. Number 40, going back a little bit further. Hopefully the release of the Bowie album the next day might have helped a little bit. Paul McCartney releasing New, Lou Reed dying. Skyfall by Adele, if you know your Bond dates. Obviously the year that the Bond film came out. Get Lucky was a massive song. That wonderful What Does the Fox Say? You got to love that, especially the video. And AM by the Arctic Monkeys. This was 2013. 2013. Okay, 35. Right. Lots of clues in there that hopefully brought you around to something else. At the Diamond Jubilee concert, you may well remember, was part of a summer of, the last time I think possibly that Britain felt good about itself. And of course, when did George Michael famously say, and now I'd like to form my new song? You got to remember this. You see, it was the Olympics, wasn't it? The closing ceremony of the Olympics. It was going so well. A celebration of British music. George Michael had just come on. I don't know about you. I got all warm inside as he started singing Freedom 90. Wonderful, wonderful song with that piano. Remember the piano notes being played all around, the projected onto the crowd around. And then it all began to fall apart when he stopped and said, and now I'd like to perform my new song. Those words that no one ever wants to hear. Yeah, there it is. And of course, the Emily Sandé might have helped because I always remember the Olympics as dominated by Emily Sandé. They seem to bring her on every 5 seconds. She seemed to perform, in my mind, she performed the opening and the closing ceremony. Seemed to perform 3 times in the opening, but that might just be my exaggeration. Okay, so there it was. Of course, it was 2012, the year of the London Olympics. Okay, my attempt at cryptic crossword clues. Well, the first one was meant to kind of bring you into it easily. Lady Gaga, She Was Born This Way. Who should you see in a crown? Well, Billie Eilish. Terrific song, by the way. I know she's very popular with teenage girls and the like, but she's a very talented Some great songs on her album. That song, I remember hearing it first time, blew me away. You Should See Me in a Crown. Terrific song. Suede had Night Thoughts in the Blue Hour. Night Thoughts and Blue Hour being 2 of their 3 albums, along with Bloodsports from the 2010s. Man Alive, their Fever Dream helped them get to heaven. That was a reference to 3 Everything albums: Man Alive, Fever Dream, and Get to Heaven. And finally, the Black Keys, Let's Rock. The El Camino Brothers Turn Blue. There's a multitude of Black Keys albums in there for you to spot as well, and well worth listening to. Brothers and El Camino, particularly good ones, I think. Okay, getting to the end. Trivia. Now, how many of you thought, oh, it must be Skyfall by Adele? But no, it wasn't. Skyfall only got to number 2. Writings on the Wall, despite its bad reviews, I never quite understood those, got to number 1. People slanging it off, saying that it didn't sound like a Bond song. It sounded exactly like a Bond song to me, but never mind. Anyway, who rejoined Paul Heaton from the Beautiful South? The lovely Jackie Abbott. And they are all worth checking out, those albums. Well, this is very much me indulging myself here and trying to get everybody to listen to Bish Bosh. This, of course, is Scott Walker. The trilogy that began in 1995 with Tilt, carried on with the absolutely incredible The Drift in 2005, I believe, and then Bish Bosh in 2012. Look at it there. It's terrifying, absolutely terrifying, but a wonderful, wonderful album. And finally, Odd One Out. I don't know if you got this. I was just playing with the idea of bizarre names for DJs. Could have kept going with more of them. Maybe it was the change in spelling that would have helped you there. But the answer, of course, is Baby Jake. Baby Jake was actually in the 2010s a CBeebies program. So there you go. Okay, I hope you did well with it. Please do let me know how you get on with it. There's a new quiz next Sunday. Please donate. I know I keep going on about it, but that's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I want to raise money. So please help me in my quest by just donating a little bit each time you have a go at this. Do let me know what you thought of it, or any challenges, any annoyances you've got, or hopefully more likely what you got out of 50, and we'll see how we get on with this. Let me know on Twitter. I will see you hopefully next week then.